Hey, this is the good Dr. Glenn Livingston, and I'm here with Yoav Ezer, my friend and partner in Joint Venture Fast Track, and we're here to talk about how to find hundreds of suitable joint venture partners in just a few hours. Is that not what we're going to talk about, Yoav? Am I lying to them?
No, at this particular incident, you're telling the truth.
Okay, I always tell the truth.
What we'll discuss today, we will discuss what makes a good joint venture partner, the different types of joint venture partners, and two techniques that you can combine to find hundreds of potential joint venture partners.
We're going to go through looking for joint venture partners that could be experts or gurus in their own rights, but it was really important to Yoav and to me too that we make it clear to you that you don't have to limit yourself to just working with gurus or experts, because there are other influential people in the market, such as list owners or bloggers or just people who own a website, product developers. Did you want to say something more about that, Yoav?
Yeah, the main idea of this slide is to explain to who's ever listening that you can find influential people that don't have a high profile. If you mentioned list owners, there are a lot of affiliate marketers who are not gurus. They don't have a public figure, a big public presence, but they do have a very active list and can make excellent joint venture partners. Bloggers are excellent joint venture partners, and we'll touch on that again in a couple of slides. And I wanted to talk about product developers because product developers own a list of buyers. Do you want to explain why that's important?
Most marketers know that a buyer is usually worth 10 times as much as a prospect, at least. So for example, I have a buying list of about 5,000 people, and I have a prospect list which is vary between about 25 and 30,000 people. I make more sales when I promote to the buyer's list than when I promote to the prospect's list, much more. That's been the case in most situations. One of the simplest rules in direct mail, for example, is if you're going to combine that with the internet, it's usually the safest approach to wait to direct mail a prospect until you know they've bought something else. Even if it's a $5 item, at least you know they're interested enough to take out their credit card, fill out their name and address, jump through all those hoops, trust you with the information, and hit the submit button, move money from one account to another. And that's a much bigger hurdle than most beginners tend to realize. So if you can find product developers who might not have a large list, but they've got a list of buyers, you're really headed in the right direction. Because you don't really care how many people see your offer. You care how many people buy your offer. And buyers are much more likely to buy than non-buyers, but people forget that.
Great.
The thing I want people to walk away with is sometimes people get starstruck and then they intimidate themselves out of doing a joint venture. They say, well, I could never joint venture with Stephen Covey, right?
Right.
I am a nobody. I don't have any credentials. I haven't been on TV. I don't have a list. I don't have a product. What do I have? But there are all these related people in the industry that you can work your way up, and the speed at which you can work your way up is a lot quicker than most people give themselves credit for. This is not really like school where you have to go first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, and you're going to have to wait 20 years before you can go to a college class. It's more like you spend 6 months or a year making contacts and building yourself up a little bit, and then you can skip to the head of the class. You really can. You'll know some people, you'll have some recommendations, you'll have developed a little list. You'll have something that works and that's profitable for the person to work with, so you can skip to the head of the class. And most people don't give themselves permission to skip to the head of the class. They're living in a rules-based society, but I hereby give you permission. If you can make it work, just skip to the head of the class.
You're absolutely correct. I'll add to it. A couple of years back, I got the opportunity to write articles for the biggest search engine blog at that point. It's called Search Engine Journal. And the way I did it was that I befriended one of the writers there. It was pretty easy to do. We had these online discussions about stuff, and after a couple of discussions, I asked her if she could get me into Search Engine Journal, and she said yes. It took about a month, and it wasn't actually work because I wanted to get in touch with her for another reason, but it took a month of maybe total 5 hours of work, and I got in.
We did the same thing with Stephen Covey. We got to a point where we said, Sharon was writing a book, and we said, we really want an endorsement from Stephen Covey. Initially, I was thinking, this is back when I used to think in a rules-based societal way, and I thought, well, honey, he's like the top of the self-improvement area, and he's such a well-respected author and professor. And she said, no, we're going to work with Stephen Covey. And she called and she befriended his secretary, and she offered to trade services, and it was more than a month. It took like 3 to 6 months to do that, but by the time we were done, we were contracted to work on his website. We bartered. work on his website, and we got a testimonial when we were done, and now Sharon can say she's endorsed by Stephen Covey, so the late Stephen Covey, which is kind of sad, but go ahead.
We'll talk about this extensively in a couple of lessons, how to befriend and how to pitch your joint ventures. But for now, let's continue to how to find the joint venture partners.
If that's what you want to do, then I will not stop you.
That's the agenda for today. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm working by the rules today.
Okay.
Those three searches are very simple searches. You can just put them into Google or Bing or whatever search engine you use, and you'll find literally hundreds of different joint venture partners. For example, if you're working in the diet market, you might look for a list of diet blogs. You'll get the results, and if you scan the first couple of pages, you'll find tons of blogs in the diet industry.
Just in case people don't read programming language, you could translate this to list of diet experts, list of diet sites, list of diet blogs. That would be the second row.
Right.
I just wanted to make sure people could read the curly brackets and know what to do with them. Okay.
And here's a live example, well, semi-live example. I typed in list of diet blogs into Google, and there's a ton of them on page, but if you look at the third entry, it's a list of the top 100 diet blogs, fitness and diet blogs.
So it's not like every entry here equates to one expert you could contact. Some of these entries could equate to 100 that you could contact.
I think that on this page alone, you have like 250 different experts you can contact.
Wow.
And that's just from one search.
That'll take you more than an evening.
That can take about 4 hours, yeah, just to make the list and put it all in Excel so you can make your way through them easily.
I was just kind of joking about how long it would take to contact them, but the point is people are sitting here thinking, well, I don't know who to contact. The odds of me getting one of these top few people on the first page is pretty small, but when you use a technique like this, you can actually wind up with maybe thousands of experts to contact and work your way through over time.
We'll talk about how to figure out who to contact first, and some of those might drop off the list. Let's say, for example, you want to write a guest post for one of those bloggers. So you'll immediately cross off the list all the blogs that don't accept guest posts. So those 100 might become 20. But then after 2 to 3 hours of work, you have 20 blogs in the diet industry, probably big blogs, that accept guest posting, and that's a major resource.
Good.
This was just the first technique. The second technique is the related market technique, and since you taught me this, why don't you explain it?
One of my major businesses is training and certifying coaches. I actually run networking meetings for the coaches to promote one another, and you'd think that that would be difficult to do because if somebody wants a coach, there's only one coach they're going to go to. But it's not really true because the coaches are very specialized. And so I have a coach who's an emotional eating specialist. She helps people to stop binge eating under stress. And I have another coach who's a time management specialist, and she helps people to find 4 to 5 extra hours a week so they can attend to what's important to them. And the classic example I give is the time management coach who's out networking and giving workshops and later on working on Facebook and advertising to build up a list of people who are trying to save that 4 or 5 hours a week and be more productive. She's probably going to run into people who say, you know, I'm low on energy because I just don't have time to make healthy food for myself. And I find that once I start with unhealthy food, I really start binging. And as a matter of fact, when I'm stressed, I start binging. Well, it would be perfect for her to be able to send people over to the emotional eating coach. And vice versa, the emotional eating coach might find people who are very resistant to, say, doing the food preparation and taking care of themselves. They need help finding that extra 4 or 5 hours so that they can have healthy salads and all those healthy, I don't know, dirt and rocks, whatever healthy people eat. She's going to need help with that. And so they're actually perfect joint venture partners, even though you think that they'd be competing, because they're in related markets. A related market is, it's someone who's in front of the same audience that you are to a large degree. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about diet and fitness. Most people in diet and fitness, they first think to joint venture with other people in diet and fitness, and then they can run into a level of competition which is uncomfortable for them. That's not even always true because a mature marketer knows that there are going to be people on my list that won't respond to me and people on your list that won't respond to you. And if we put our lists together, we can actually do a lot better than if we worked apart, but that takes a more sophisticated marketer to really come to that conclusion. It can be more difficult trying to joint venture exactly in the bullseye of your niche, but when you use this related market techniques, you can see that it's very easy to step aside and eliminate the whole concern about competition entirely. And so Yoav's going to tell you how to do that.
So there's a lot of ways to do it, but the simplest one is just to Google your main term. So let's take, for example, diet. If you Google diet and you just read through the first 5 to 10 result pages, you come across a lot of different related ideas. I did that for the diet market. What I got was fitness and nutrition and health, which makes sense.
Could you say more specifically how you did this?
I went into Google. Let's go there. And I typed in diet, and then I just scanned the result. So there's weight loss diet plans and people that talk about avocado and best diets and about healthy eating tips and nutrition. So I found nutrition here, and you can also see that it's an article on Psychology Today. So I might add psychology or psychologists as a related market.
I see. So you're scanning for language that seems to circle around the diet and fitness market.
Right.
And you go to the next page and you keep looking?
And I keep looking. And there's Mediterranean and good foods and dietary guidelines for Americans and WebMD. Then I go to the next page.
I saw blood pressure.
Yeah. And juicing. Okay, so this article about juicing made me think that maybe we should talk about recipes, because recipes are a good...
Oh, when you go to one of those like raw food bloggers who has got 10,000 people looking for the latest raw fruit juice recipe, right?
Or even just someone who's a cooking expert. Some of his people that love food, tend to be overweight. And, and he might have a couple of customers for you.
That's true.
And on and on. And heart disease, okay? Healthy heart diet. So this is a potential area we can go to cardiologists and talk to them about dieting. Suddenly the world is a lot larger.
Wonderful. Very helpful.
And I found parenting, which seems to have a large overlap with diet and dating. I haven't thought of that because I haven't been on a date for 20 years, but you know, it's true. You want to look your best.
That's true. And the only thing that makes parenting tolerable is chocolate.
Yeah. No, it's sleep and vacation, but we'll talk about it later.
Okay.
So what do we want to look in a JV partner? There's a couple of sites you can use to check how big the site is. I forget the names. Could you remind me?
Alexa, Quantcast.
Right.
And Alexa, the ranking you'll get will be smaller when they have more traffic. So the closer it is to 1, the bigger the site is, the more traffic the site has.
How open is the joint venture partners to joint ventures? And you can do that by looking at the blog post, seeing if she's done joint ventures before, or just signing up for the list and reading her emails for a couple of weeks or a couple of months. If she's actively doing joint ventures, then you'll get some emails promoting other.
Oh, because she'll be endorsing someone else, sure. The other thing I'd say about list size is that if you see a site that has a lot of traffic, and we just talked about how you can assess that, if they have a lot of traffic and you also see an opt-in form on the site that seems to have prominence, not just one of those things that's off in the corner, but especially if it has some kind of prominence, then the odds are that person has a fairly large list. Mm-hmm. And even if it is off in the corner, they're probably developing a list, just not as fast as they could, but they don't know that.
Yeah. We can talk more about how to build a list. Third parameter is the joint venture partner approachable, and you can just find indication of this all over her site.
Well, yeah, you could assess how approachable someone is in part by the prominence of their social media accounts. If they're asking to connect on Facebook and Twitter, then they're probably going to be easier to connect with than if they kind of have to hunt for those links. If they're asking questions and searching for comments on their blog, then they're going to be more approachable and interactable and that kind of thing, right?
Right, exactly. And when you combine all those parameters, you can know who to go after first.
You make a big old spreadsheet, you list the traffic. These are all estimated, the traffic and size and openness to joint ventures, and you could actually create a score which adds them all up together or multiplies them, depending on which one is most important to you. Then you have a way to rank order this large list of joint ventures that you started out with.
A couple of minutes will show you where you can find exactly such a spreadsheet. It's already made, so you can use it. Another thing we want to say is that you, at least initially, before you get the hang of how to approach people and how to target the big players in your market, you want to joint venture sideways and not upwards. By that I mean that you want to aim to people at your level or one level above you. And if you have a list of 1,000 people, you might want to joint venture with other people that have lists around that size. If you have a blog with a few hundred subscribers, want to find people at that level because they'll be just easier to approach.
What if I don't have any list?
So you go after people with a couple of hundred subscribers. But those people are usually very, very approachable, even if you have no site or no list. You just go and create a joint venture with them, and once you build your list, you start climbing up the stairs.
My experience has been with students that it's faster if you have no subscribers to offer 80% or 100% of the first couple of the deals to the promoter, and basically you're just buying a list. So they're more likely to jump at it if they're really going to get the lion's share of the profit, assuming that it's a good fit for their list. Then you'll have a list and you'll be in a different position.
Right, and that's if you're going to promote a product. But if you're doing an information sharing joint venture and you don't have anything, you can still go after someone with a medium or a small size list. You just have to make the offer really attractive to him.
Got it. Get your feet wet.
Yeah, and if you go again to the guest posting example, if you create a great guest post for someone, he doesn't care if you have a big list. It's valuable unto itself.
That's true. Sometimes you're not providing the list, you're providing the content and the expertise.
Right. And the last thing we want to mention is that you need to match the right joint venture type to the right partner. So if you're working with bloggers, you want to write guest posts. If you're working with affiliates, you will want to sell a product because that's what they do. So tailor your offer to the joint venture partner.
That's interesting. I never really heard people talk about that. That makes a lot of sense.
Now, I hand it over to you, Glenn.
Okay, so let's talk about how you can fast-track your joint ventures and get much more comprehensive training and, more importantly, make the connections that you need to get moving. Joint Venture Fast Track is our complete step-by-step training on joint ventures, where you'll discover the complete list of 12 joint venture types. You'll get 6 more ways to build a list of potential JV partners, including 2 sources of partners that would gladly answer your call with 80% or more success. We'll show you exactly how to approach and pitch your JV to potential partners to maximize the chances of getting accepted. Biggest benefit is we've actually put together a group, a private group of business owners and entrepreneurs who are actively looking for joint ventures and are proving to be serious joint venture-minded people who've also paid for the training, so you know that they're in concert, they're simpatico with our philosophy of building long-term, evergreen, lucrative joint ventures. They're not looking for the one and done. They're not looking for quickies where you take advantage of each other's list. They're really looking to add value to each other's lists. It's really the kind of place where 1 and 1 makes 3. Most importantly, there's a private group, we have an online group, and we facilitate the connections inside of the online group, and we have a little methodology for, rather than just leaving you to a free-for-all, we have a little methodology for helping you to make those connections. Beyond that, Yoav and I will personally lead a monthly networking webinar, only for our club members, and we will facilitate this in a particular format to help you shine to the potential people who are looking to form joint ventures. We will also take these webinars and record them and broadcast it to our entire buyers list. And remember, buyers are much more valuable than prospects. So your business and JV deal will be promoted to thousands of business owners. You'll actually have the chance to have them hear your voice personally pitching it, not just posting it on a board. And at our option, in addition to the buyers of this particular service, the joint venture group, by the way, there are other groups like this that charge $2,000 a year, and you're going to see that you have the opportunity to get this for free if you're willing to take action shortly. But beyond our personal list of joint venture club buyers, Yoav and I also control other very large lists. I control lists of tens of thousands of business people, and at our option, when we think that there are things that might be of interest to them, we're going to promote the clubs, we're going to promote the recordings ourselves, not to mention, not to leave out the last thing, which is that Yoav and I ourselves are going to be listening carefully to these joint ventures. We are fairly picky at this point, but it can and does and can and has happened that we decide to joint venture with the people who present in the club. So this really is a tremendous opportunity. It saves you a lot of work and a lot of time, and I think that you should very seriously consider joining Joint Venture Fast Track to get the fast action bonus.